Hi, how you doing? Tired of sitting at home? Me too. Okay, I'm not going to talk for that long, maybe 20 minutes or so, just to give an overview of the programs in the School of Social Natural Sciences. And like Shamika said, feel free to post a question on the chat feature, and we'll have plenty of time for questions after this. I'm coming to you from a coral reef in Fiji. No, not really. I'm in my house, but this is a background picture I took of a coral reef in Fiji, and those are all soft corals behind me. I'm a marine geologist by training, a paleontologist, and I spent 30 years taking students just like you all over the world to study modern and fossil coral reefs. This reef would not be much for a fossil reef because all those corals are soft, and if you don't have hard parts, it's hard to become a fossil. Okay, but that's not what I'm here to talk to you about today, although I could. We're going to talk about the School of Social and Natural Sciences. Okay, so I'm going to give you just some background, and then I'll go over the programs, the opportunities, and then you guys can ask me questions. All right. So first of all, a little bit about the background of the school. So it's the largest school of the 6 schools on the Bristol campus. The School of Social and Natural Sciences is the largest. Has about 900 students currently enrolled this spring. And so there's a fair administrative support structure in place. And in addition to me, there's an assistant dean. There's a manager of SCAS operations. And what does that mean? Well, FCAS stands for the Feinstein College of Arts and Sciences. And a few years ago, that college was split into 2 schools, my school, Social Natural Sciences, and the School of Humanities, Arts, and Education, right? So one of the things I want to say right from the get-go is just because you applied and accepted, and I know you're going to come to Roger Williams University and you're going to major in one of the departments in my school, doesn't mean that you can't take a history class or a philosophy class, right? This is a liberal arts setting, right? And so the split is really a structural thing. I'm the inaugural dean for this school, and my good colleague Cynthia Scheinberg is the dean for the School of Humanities, Arts, and Education. Got a lot of grants acquisition down in the Marine Science Building, and so we have a full-time grants and compliance specialist, in addition to a university-wide office of sponsored programs, 3 administrative assistants, and 3 secretaries in the school. And as I said, it's the largest school of the 6. I have approximately 126 faculty, both full-time and adjuncts, that report to me. I know every single one of them. I know every one of them. I had 61 regular faculty I see a lot of, and I've had all the adjunct faculty that work for me come and spend a half an hour so I can get to know them, sign everybody. And they offer quite a great number of opportunities for students that are fortunate to be in their classes as well. 7 academic departments offering a total of 18 majors and 3 minors. All right, I'm not going to read these slides to you, okay? But just to get you a sense of the things you can major in the different programs, okay? So in the 7 departments, the largest is the biology, marine biology, and environmental science program. It's about 450, 460 majors in it. The psychologists would tell you that that's a false metric because there's actually 3. Other schools would have a separate bio, a separate marine bio, and a separate environmental science department, but we combine them because the psych department has 200 some majors and it's just one topic, right? Psychology. Anyway, so we offer Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Sciences. We have a program in aquaculture and aquarium science. It's relatively new. It's actually very popular. It's not a standalone major, so it's a program that you would take, but you have to do another major with it. Doesn't matter what one, but you have. And the reason is that the aquaculture and aquarium science program is really a more of a professional degree. You learn how to design aquaria and keep fish alive and that kind of thing. And it's not something that you can enter as a declared major into right away. You need to take a few of the foundation courses, and then you can segue into that major. Right? So you've probably seen on the admission site that you're asked if you'd like to come in as a declared something. Aquaculture aquarium science is not something you can come in declared as. It's something you add later. Chemistry and physics. They offer BA and BS degrees. They're accredited by the American Chemical Society. So if you're interested in going into the industry, chemical engineering, that kind of thing, it's a certified program, so you'd have that certification to work with. It offers a partnership with the Albany College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, a 3-3 program in pharmacy. And they offer a BS as well as a BA in environmental chemistry as well. And they actually do a lot of interdisciplinary work with the marine biologists, right? So I'll give you an example of that. We have a guy in the biology department who is one of the people that are a principal in the marine lab that I'm going to talk about, the Center for Economic and Environmental Development, and he's interested in the marine aquarium trade. ornamental fish and that sort of thing. And they got together with a chemist to design a system for detecting whether fish that are being brought in through U.S. customs were fished illegally using cyanide. And they did that with a basically they can detect the metabolite of the cyanide in the fish tissues. And so that's a nice example of interdisciplinary work. The physicists also get involved in this. Adria Updike in the physics department had a student working with her developing an electronic sensor that could predict red tide blooms, algal blooms, based on electroconductivity of the seawater. So there's a lot of interdisciplinary things that go on down in that building. Math, we have 7 faculty down there in the Marine and Natural Sciences building. They have a very strong applied math as well as a mathematics program. They do a good job with research with students, and they send them off to very good graduate schools. They have the Students Win Award at national meetings. Small department, but high touch department, math department. The newest department in my school is public health. And as you might imagine, there's a fair amount of interest in public health these days. And it has faculty actually that are drawn from all of the other departments in my school, right? So, and I'm gonna circle back to that at the end, but there are people in various disciplines, psychology, sociology, political science, as well as math and biology, teach in the public health program. We offer actually 3 different tracks, 2 of them towards the BA, one in community and health equity, and the other in basically policy and administration. And then there's a BS track, public health, which would be more the epidemiology line and the modeling of diseases and that sort of thing. And I think you start thinking about these disciplines in my school and how you could approach all of those in today's world, as a matter of fact. Politics faculty, also another high touch department. They offer a degree in political science, international relations. They have a lot of hands-on experiences for students actually in when they offer the campaigns and elections during an election year. Our students are out pounding the pavement, working on learning what it takes to do a campaign. It's pretty interesting. And I'll tell you a little more about things that students do extracurricular in a minute. So arguably psychology is the largest department because it has 260 majors and it's just one topic and not 3. They have a lot of students that go on in either clinical or developmental psychology. They offer 2 master's programs with a small graduate program in psychology, both in forensic and legal psychology, and a licensed program for counseling, forensic mental health counseling. They offer the BA in psychology, also a very hands-on and experiential learning oriented department. And I'll give you some examples in just a minute. All right, so those are the 7 departments in my school, variously sized, and they're in 2 different places. The Marine and Natural Sciences are all down in the wet lab area, and that's that building, the science building, and the other departments are up in the College of Arts and Sciences building, and I'm in between them in my office, which is right where I want to be. All right, so anyway, those are those departments. Let's see here. Next up, hang on, there we go. Let me give you an example of some of the extracurricular activities that go on and that Roger Williams is known for. All right, and this is one of the value-added pieces. Now, if you're going to ask me why I should come to Roger Williams University, in addition to the best dean in the world, here's some other reasons. Okay, first of all, let's go to the Marine and Natural Sciences. So we have a marine lab, an active marine lab that's attached to the back of the science building, and they're very, very research active, and they involve students in a lot of the projects that go on down there. And it's not just students that are interested in doing research with a faculty member. It's any student that takes a class that has anything to do with the ocean will probably get a ride on the research vessel, the Invincible Spirit. It's a research vessel that can accommodate a whole lab at once legally, and we can take them out for a 3-hour interval and go out into the bay, and you can literally get your hands and feet wet doing something. Last summer, there were 30 undergraduate research students working in the marine lab. They weren't all necessarily biologists and marine biologists. As I mentioned, there were the chemists that were working in a collaborative project. There are physicists that work in a collaborative project. There are math students that work down there, or work in the building anyway. And another interesting interdisciplinary approach between biology and math, Ed Doherty had a student, Caudill Lindberg, who just graduated last year, who was working on Parkinson's disease, which is it's really a devolution of the sheaths on the neurons in the brain, and they were doing mathematical modeling of the way these neurons would fire in different components of the brain at different stages of disease. Really interesting stuff. I understand the general application of the research, but the mathematical modeling is out of my pay grade. We also employ a lot of students during the year. The wet lab during the year had 70 work study students. And they're working basically keeping the fish alive or the algae alive or the clams alive. A few work in the Aquatic Diagnostic Laboratory, which is the marine veterinary operation that's down there. You might wonder why we have algae in a wet lab with fish and oysters and clams and stuff. And the reason is that that's the base of the food chain. And we start our hatchery operations from the bottom, right from the base, with raising our own algae. And so some of the research that goes on down there is actually research in the best way to raise algae, the best type of algae. What are the protein combinations that you can work with algae? What's the best way to get larvae to settle on a hard substrate, right? Some of the research is very applied, and much of it is really done here and nowhere else. And I'll give you an example of one of those things that's done here and nowhere else in just a minute. The chemistry department also has active student researchers, both during the academic year and in the summer. They have an active student organization, the Science Alliance, which has won actually national awards for their engagement of communities in terms of chemistry education. And they've also had students, as a math department, win some pretty prestigious awards at national meetings for the poster sessions that they give that are based on the work that they did back at the university. So I've already mentioned the math business. The chair of the math department had a student a couple of years ago that worked on equations for the Mars ascent vehicle. And they had a model of this Mars ascent vehicle in the lobby of MNS. It was this big round thing. And once again, the student went on to do great things. She put the explanation of what she was doing next to the model in the lobby. And I was saying, you got to rewrite this because I don't understand it. And I know something about what you're doing. So you got to write this in English. Everyone understands what's going on. So, science communication is another sort of thing we stress here. And then recently, we received $1 million from NSF as an STEM grant to support academically talented low-income students as a summer bridge program. And it's clever what they did. They incorporated science communication into it. So the students have a Twitter account, an Instagram feed. They're trying, and in fact, that's a program that I'd like to develop in the next couple of years, is science communication. I think you can all agree that what is much needed in the world are people that communicate science, fact-based science, to the general public in a way that's understandable. I think this is a perfect example today about that. Not to mention, I think you all understand that the effect of mass media and social media today is very different than it was even 20 years ago. And so a science communication program that would include our journalism school, which is in the School of Humanities, Arts, and Education, right? And our web development school and all that. We had a student do an individualized major a couple of years ago and got an internship at Science Magazine in Texas. Very impressive. All right, let's go up the hill to Arts and Science, the College of Arts and Sciences building, and the social sciences programs that are in there. So I guess I'm going, it's alphabetical order. All right, so anthropology and sociology is a combined major. So the topics, actually, the prefix is anth-soc. And what they've done is they've put the foundation courses together, and then students can declare which way they want to go with a pathway. This is a very common double major or minor or core concentration for students in other majors. Very, very common. They do a really good job explaining to students what the career pathways are for people that are trained in these disciplines, and networking in the faculty are very generous in engaging students in their networks of professionals. Do a really good job of this. They require a senior thesis, which is then presented at professional conferences. They teach abroad. Jason Patch has done a sociology class, and it's in Paris and London. Not so bad, but basically sociology of cities. Very interesting. The politics department also has students on the ground doing exit polling, working in campaigns. We have award-winning Model UN teams that go to New York City and compete, and they hold their own even against, the Ivies and stuff. And the Model Arab League, which is in Washington, D.C. I have been in their, they have a couple of classes that are entirely done as an in-class simulation. One is of a hypothetical country in Eastern Europe, and the different factions. It's basically modeled on Turkey and Kurds and the Kurds and stuff. And they have us all hypothetical names. And the students break out into groups representing the different factions, and then they come together and try to agree on what it is they're searching for. And the same with the Middle East one. I was astonished when I last sat in that class, and these students were in these groups. You know, there's Hamas, there was Likud Party, there was the Syrians were there for another reason, and there was a membership from the PLO, and the students not only were up to date on what the issues were for the constituents that they were representing, but they also knew the geography. They had the geography of the Middle East down, right? And students there are hard pressed to fill in a map of 50 states, label the states. So I was really impressed by that. All right, psychology. Psychology has actually a few foundation courses that everybody takes, and then students can choose their pathway, clinical, developmental, that sort of thing. And by choosing from courses that are elective courses within those categories. And they're all required to take like at least one from those different categories. The foundation classes are the 100 level introductory class, which a lot of students get credit for. They get AP credit for that. They bring that in. But then at the 2, the 3, and the 400 level, the courses are scaffolded. So the student has to take research methods, they take quantitative analysis, then research methods, then experimental psychology in that order. And in experimental psychology, they apply what they learned in those other 2 classes to actually do an experiment. They put it through the Human Subject Review Board. They got to write a proposal. They do it. They present it at posters. I've been to a lot of psychology poster sessions at the end of the semester for experimental psychology, and it seems like everybody's finding interactions and effects, right, which are the statistical things for a variety of all sorts of different stuff. And they use RW students a lot of times for their subjects. They're all required to do an internship or a thesis. So there's a lot of hands-on activities that are required for the major, and they're also very research active. The faculty, many of the faculty are research active, and they take students on, in a 1 or 2 or 3 person model to do some kind of research program, and they get their stuff out to various meetings. Okay, finally, public health. They're required to do some kind of community engaged service activity. There are partnerships. We have regularized partnerships with the Rhode Island Department of Health, and we send students there for internships or research. And some of those form that community engaged service activity. It's part of their capstone that students have to do, bring everything together. Many of the courses that are cross-listed with public health have community engaged projects built into them, and that's what CPC stands for. That's our office, the Community Partnership Center. That's what it stands for, right? And so I'll give you an example. They will send students out in the community and I'll go to these presentations too. So the nutrition deserts, students went and they interviewed owners of barrios around the Providence area and asked them basically how much healthy food they carried and what the barriers were for carrying healthy food. Why couldn't they stock more produce, or any produce for that matter? And you never know what you're going to get. They did get a map. They did compile a map of where in the area the nutrition deserts are, and then of course you do the sociology of this, and there are all sorts of correlations with nutrient deserts and all sorts of social inequities in these neighborhoods. It's really interesting, and not only social inequities, but physical plant inequities, real estate inequities. What they discovered mostly was that a lot of the barrio owners didn't want to talk to them. So but you learn something like that. They also, I'll tell you something else. Saeed Hadirali, who is a sociologist, was teaching a public health capstone class. And he had the students ride in the bus. There's a bus that goes up and down the peninsula, goes from Providence to Newport, goes down the peninsula, over the bridge, and down to Quinnipiac Island. And the students are like, he got them all bus passes. He said, I want you to ride the bus. And they're like, why do you want us to ride the bus? He said, I want you to just observe who rides the bus. Where are the bus stops? How are they located relative to banks, grocery stores, health clinics? That sort of thing. How long does it take? What are the transportation? Those sort of things. And once the students understood what it is they were on about, they got a lot out of that project, riding the bus. But initially, I don't understand how this is public health. I don't understand, right? So you learn a lot about the topics. All right, let's see. Now, the Marine Lab. I'm going to explain how the Marine Lab, and it integrates with the biology and marine biology program. The Marine Lab, think of it as a table with 4 legs that's supported by 4 legs. And the 4 legs are these 4 things that you see here on the slide, 2, 3, 4. So, and each of these research operations is headed up by a faculty member in the biology and marine biology and environmental science department, okay? and they teach, and they're working in this lab. And that includes the marine ornamental. So this is the fish. This is raising fish for the aquarium trade. And the research that has to go with this is the best way to do that. They also, as I explained earlier, they work to help U.S. Customs with basically intercepting fish that have been fished illegally. And both of those things help for sustainable fish populations. Then we have a shellfish program. This is the clams and the oysters. We have our own brand of oysters, Fairy Cliff oyster. Fairy Cliff is the name of the farm that the university's on. It's the land. And again, they have a substantial outreach component, cooperative extension sort of thing, helping shellfish gardeners and to raise basically aquaculture, to do oysters in the environment here, and clams and quahogs. It's a booming industry, the marine aquaculture industry, for a variety of reasons. And so a lot of the research we do is on the best way to do that. And we provide oyster seed meaning the little tiny ones, to various operations, including URI. So we actually have this business as well, where we're selling these things. And as you might expect, if you're going to raise oysters in concentrated areas in the wild, then you need to know something about diseases that could outbreak and decimate a population of oysters. And that's where the Aquatic Diagnostic Lab comes in. And so we have a marine vet on staff. She's actually world-renowned, Roxanna Smolitz, and she runs a business too. She basically takes tissue samples. People send her, I mean, I didn't know this. As far as a dean, I didn't think about oysters getting sick, right? But they do. And people send her samples for her to do the pathology on, to figure out what types of diseases, and then she does research to determine what are environmental factors which might lead to these diseases and which environmental factors might prevent these diseases. And she has a full-time lab tech. So all these people, these indented things. So we have the marine lab manager's full-time position, research associate, likewise, senior aquarist. Some of these are alums and others are not. And then finally, the Astrangia research group, and that's the picture that kind of looks purple on the bottom of the slide. These are students. They're very excited. They went and they collected this cold water coral, which is what Astrangia is, over near Jamestown. And they are the first research team in the world to breed this coral in captivity to the larval settlement stage, right? So the way corals work is they release their gametes into the water, the eggs and sperm fertilize there, they form larvae. The larvae then has to find a suitable substrate, a hard substrate usually, to settle on, and then it metamorphoses into a baby coral, all right? And so now what I'm gonna do is what am I gonna do, Shamik? I'm gonna end the show, reshare the screen, and show the video. Is that what I'm gonna do? All right,
Yes.
So bear with me, folks.
Yes, that is what you're going to do.
All right, so first I'm going to show you, two videos. I'm going to end the show, and then I'm going to bring this up, stop screen share, start screen share, go to a different window, share it. Okay, can you see the fish?
Yes, we can.
All right, hold on to your socks here. This is the first cohort of royal grammas. These are baby fish that live in, are very much in demand in the tropical aquarium trade, and we raise them for the first time. So we know how to do this, right? We have the algae that feeds the larval fish, and then it feeds the copepods, which are little tiny zooplankton that the fish then eat. And we do all of it here. And this just happened as time lapse, obviously, but these were just in the lab the other day. All right, so that's pretty cool. All right, now check this out. All right, so this is the coral that they're working on. This is a cold water coral. It's called Astrangia poculata. And it's an unusual coral because most corals live in warmer water, all right, where there's more sunlight and not quite such a strong difference between winter and summer. So if you take a look at this close up, so here's a coral. The colonies are made up of individual animals, these polyps, and they have mouths, and they have tentacles. And you see all these spots in here. These are all algae, actually, that live in a symbiosis. They do good things for the coral, and the coral does good things for them. That's what symbiosis means. And that's what they're actually interested in the Astrangia lab, because this coral mixes and matches the association of microorganisms, the algae and bacteria that are in the tissues. It mixes and matches those associations in the winter and the summer. And so the bottom line is it can adapt to water temperatures, which makes it a great system for studying coral adaptation to climate change, right? So anyway, so this is the first. Nobody's ever been able to do this. They got these things, they collected these things, and then in November, during what they called Spawn Fest, they actually got them to spawn. So Nobody's done this before. All right, so that's what spawning looks like, right? So these are eggs and sperm are being released basically out of the mouths of the polyp, and are going out into the water, and then you get the fertilization, and then there's a larval stage that comes out of that. And then what these guys did was nobody's done this. They didn't really know how to do it the right way, but so they bought little discs about the size of a $50, but a little thicker than that, made out of limestone, which is the same substance, same mineral that these animals' skeletons are made out of, to see if that would allow the larvae to settle. And they did, which was pretty neat. And so they got it to the settlement stage. And like I said, the funny thing about research is we don't know if we knew what we were doing, we wouldn't call it research. So let me get back to this. Share the screen. It's not working. It's not letting me share. Try again. We'll get rid of this noise. All right. Let's try this again. There, can you see that?
Yes.
Whoops. Okay. So that's pretty cool. You got to admit that's pretty cool. All right. Anyway, let me, I'm almost done here. I want to just make a couple of comments. All right. Because I think we've gotten a sense of the sort of extracurricular experiential learning opportunities you're going to get when you come here. But so who cares? Why is that important? And the reason that's important is that if you take a look at what employers want in graduating college students, it turns out if you take a look at the left side of this graph, you don't see discipline-specific knowledge on the left side of this graph. So this is a survey of CEOs and managers of a whole bunch of companies, big companies. And what you see are what have been termed in the literature the soft skills, being able to work with people and talk about what you're doing, and being able to solve problems and that sort of thing, right? And here's another way of looking at it. This one's a little creepier. This is from Burning Glass. This is an outfit out of Boston. And they sent out web crawlers to job ad sites. So this is all automated. And they surveyed 60,000 job ads. They do this over and over again. And they look to see what the essential attributes as listed in the job ads are. And you can see the same thing, right? It's all about the soft skills, the people skills, communicating, working together, and that sort of thing. And the students at Roger Williams pick these skills up by doing these sorts of experiential projects. And when I say experiential, I mean study abroad, I mean working on a research project, I mean an internship, I mean a class project where you're going out and working with the Bristol Health Equity Zone on putting together a cookbook of recipes that engage healthy foods for the people that go through the equity zone. I'm talking about that sort of thing. And the interesting thing, and I've talked to students about this, if they engage in one of those projects or more than one of those projects, and you talk to them about, could you leverage your experience and something you did in one of these projects in a job interview about a time where you ran into something you didn't expect, and how you solved it, and even though it has nothing to do with that particular job, could you leverage that? And they get it. They get it like that. They understand that these are important skills. So to close, I'll say, you guys are a new generation. You're Generation Z, and the surveys of Generation Z and college enterers show that 72% think that colleges should allow students to design their own course of study. And so we have the vast majority of our students, I think it's 83 or 84%, double major, major and minor, major, two minors, that sort of thing. And they integrate the different disciplines into the package that they want. We also have students that do individualized majors. Entrepreneurship, we offer courses in entrepreneurship in our business school, right? So I thought Roger Williams really is on this. In fact, I came to Roger Williams.
Dean Greenstein, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think we have somebody waiting to get into the presentation. Do you see somebody on the, do you see anything on the screen there? I'm just going to reclaim the host for a second.
Go ahead.
Okay.
All set?
Yep.
Okay. So I came to Roger Williams University for two reasons. One was that I worked for 20 years at a small liberal arts college in the Midwest. And I came to Roger Williams primarily because the combination of liberal education and professional preparation that we do, I think is the future for higher education in America. And I wanted to be part of that. And the second reason I came was that there's a commitment to betterment of society, application to society, solving complex problems that matter. And I think that also is what college education is about. It's about producing a citizenry that can handle complex problems like the one we see going on right today. So with that, I'll stop and I will take, are there questions, Shamika?
I am going to resume hosting at this point. So everybody, as I shared earlier, we'll be taking questions via the chat feature. So if you have any questions, please do go ahead and type them in so we can see them. And there are actually not too many of us here, and we're off the presentation mode now. So if somebody also wants to share their question. Oh, we have one. So what is the best track to take for international relations if you do double major in public health?
Well, there's a regional focus in the tracks in international relations. And so I think what you want to do is pick the region that you think you're most interested in.
Does that answer your question, Isabel? She said yes. Okay, is there another question?
I want to point out that there is a Q&A session for all the programs on Tuesday afternoon. This Tuesday afternoon, there'll be faculty from all of these programs available in this format for a Q&A. So they're not going to give a formal presentation, but they'll be available to answer specific questions from you.
Yes, and there's another international relations session next Saturday as well. So we've got another question from Michael. When majoring in marine bio, do we have to do double major or can we minor?
You can minor. Oh, if you're majoring in, is the question, if you are a marine bio major, can you do a double major in a minor, or is it, I don't quite understand the question. You could turn.
Michael, can you clarify for us?
Unmute them and they can ask.
So I'm going to unmute everybody. At this point, everybody is unmuted. So if you want to mute yourself, you can do that individually. But Michael, if you're there, do you want to clarify your question for us?
Yeah, so my question is, when majoring in marine bio, are we required to do a dual major doing that, or can we do like two minors?
You're not required to do a double major if you're majoring in marine biology. And in fact, the aquaculture thing is not, it's not a major, so it's not like you're required to do a second major. So you could do a minor. You know, everybody, I don't know how much you've been reading the information about the university, but everybody is required, no matter what their major, to do a core concentration, which is a 5-course concentration in a field different than they're majoring in. And it has to be a liberal arts field, right? So you can't, if you're a marine bio major, you couldn't do a core concentration in marketing, for example. But you could do one in math, or you can do one in history or something like that. And likewise, a marketing major, a lot of marketing majors actually core concentrate in psychology.
I don't know.
So we have another question here from Sydney. How many students do you typically see in a lab space?
18. All the intralabs are capped at 18 because that's as many spaces as we have.
Does this major included?
What?
Jessica, I think we're hearing some of what's going on there. If your question is not for us, it might be good to mute your microphone if you're able to, so we can.
We're trying.
We don't get confused. I'll help you. We're all learning together. It's totally fine. Okay, so. I'm sorry, Dean Greenstein, what were you saying? So that the labs are capped at 18 because that's how many students use space for.
As many as we can take. So sometimes the lecture will be larger and it'll be split into 2 lab sections.
Awesome. Next question. Does this major include preparation for the pre-health programs?
Which major?
Jessica, of course, who I muted. So now I will try to find her to unmute
So if
her.
it's a marine bio major,
Natural science.
so it depends for pre-health. Some of it depends on which health profession you're looking to go in. But frankly, you could major in just about anything and take the classes you need to do pre-health, right? I don't know which pre-health you're even med school. You could be a history major and go to medical school. You just have to take the courses that are represented on the MCATs, right? So, so the answer to your question, if you're asking about marine biology, does it include courses that will get you into a health professions program? Yes, certainly at the foundation level, all the biology and the chemistry that you're going to have to take for marine bio would be applicable to a pre-health program.
And you want to talk a little bit about Carrie Warren's role?
Yeah, so we have a couple of pre-health advisors in the biology department. So Carrie Warren is one of them. Lonnie Goralnik is another one. And they are the people to reach out to specifically to design the pathway that's best suited for the program that you want to go to. But there really aren't majors. There's not a specific major you do for a pre-health program, because the programs you need, the courses you need for pre-health in terms of the sciences and the math are sort of built into some of these other majors. And so you could do a public health major as well as a pre-health track, just taking the courses that you need for whatever the health profession is that you want to go into, right? And like I said, the people to talk about that are Carrie Warren, she's half-time in biology and half-time in public health. So she's one of the principals in the public health department. And Mary Beth McPhee is the chair of the public health department. And Mary Beth will be on the Q&A a week from Tuesday. It's actually a week from Wednesday. It's Tuesday or Wednesday a week from now.
All right, next question. Can you elaborate a bit on the core concentrations and what that means for the classes we take?
Sure. So the core concentration is part of our general education curriculum, right? So in addition to a major, in order to graduate from Roger Williams University, a student also has to declare and satisfy a core concentration. It's a 5-course sequence in a discipline other than the one they are majoring in. Okay, core concentrations with an addition of a course, usually it's just one more course, sometimes it's 2, is a minor, will be a minor, right? So a lot of students turn their core concentration into a minor, and then they've satisfied both, all right? Now, as I said earlier, the core concentration has to be in a liberal arts discipline. So that would either be in my school or the School of Humanities, Arts, and Education, right? All the professional schools, all the students in the professional schools have to do a core concentration as well. So somebody's in engineering, a lot of them core concentrate in math, because they got to take a lot of math anyway for engineering, and so they end up core concentrating in math. If you are a bio or marine biology major, you may not core concentrate in chemistry, because there's a lot of chemistry in biology and marine biology, so that's too close, right? And the catalog is very clear about what those kinds of restrictions are. There are a few, they're not a lot. And you don't need to worry about declaring your core concentration the day you step on campus, right? In fact, you don't have to worry about declaring your major the day you step on campus. I know there's a drop-down menu on the admissions website. What would you like to declare? But let me tell you something. Parents, I hope you're out there too. 75% of students nationally change their major once they get to college. 75%, right? So if you get admitted to Roger Williams University, you haven't been admitted to psychology. You haven't been admitted to marine biology. Even if you're declared, you come in declared in marine biology, you can still stay here if you get into a class in whatever discipline you've declared and you don't like it. It's okay. And this serves as quite a source of angst for a lot of students. They think, I'm going to declare this and now I can't do it. And, the world's coming to an end. The world is not coming to an end. Even now, by the way, the world's not coming to an end. And students, I'm going to tell you this till I'm blue in the face. Coming to college, a lot about coming to college is learning about who you are. And a lot about learning about who you are is learning about who you're not, right? And it's okay. And so students come and explore. Even if you come in as a declared major, not all the courses you take your first semester are going to be in your major. You'll be taking other things anyway, okay? But did I answer the question? You understand what the core concentration is?
I think so, but
Yes, thank you. You're welcome.
all right. Next question. What's the difference between minor for anthropology and sociology and the minor concentration for sociology anthropology?
The core it's one less course for the core concentration.
Does that make sense, Isabel?
Yeah, so core concentrations uniformly are 5 classes, right? And minors are typically more, okay? And there's typically, in the core and in the minor, there's a lot of flexibility, right? So, you know, take a couple of foundation courses and then 3 more courses, one of which has to be at the 300 level or something like that, right? Minors are often the same way. You know, take a couple, they require 1 or 2, and then they give you great leeway to take other courses, and they'll restrict, and they'll make some stipulation that, or in the sciences, it'll be take a couple of foundation courses, you take 3 more electives, and one must be a lab course of the remaining 3 or something like that. Make sense? You're welcome.
Next question. What is a common core concentration you see for marine biology students?
Oh, it's all over the map, the core concentration for marine bio students. Some of them core concentrate in humanities disciplines. Some of them core concentrate in math. It really is, I don't know if is there a single most common core concentration for marine bio? Some of them do public health. Some of them do politics. A few of them do psychology. Students seem to have an innate interest in psychology. So I'm not sure I can give you like the most common. I'll tell you what, if they do, when they do the Q&A on Tuesday, there could be a couple of cats from the department are there. Ask them what they think about that.
Do we have any other questions? I don't see any others in the chat feature here. Should we attend the orientation chat tomorrow?
Sure.
Why not?
What else you got to do? You're stuck at home. And I think you should do the Q&A. There are more program presentations next Saturday. Should definitely do that. My assistant dean, Becky Spritz, will be up next weekend doing this presentation. So a couple of things. So guys, put your cameras on so I can see some of you.
Okay.
There we go. So let me ask you, there we go, good. So how's it going? Can they unmute themselves?
I will unmute everyone and you can mute yourself if you'd like to.
How's it going? How is senioritis exacerbated by being at home taking classes online?
Yeah.
I'll bet. Are you learning any questions?
We do have one other question over here. Oh, and Isabel, I think you were talking about the orientation advisor talk that's tomorrow. So that actually can be helpful, you know, just to hear about orientation, talk to the orientation advisors. These are folks who would typically, you know, be with you during orientation, getting you acclimated to campus, talking to you about their student experience, picking classes, and the whole array of things that come with enrolling at a university and getting started and getting things off the ground. So that would be a good talk for you to attend. Getting to Michael's, oh.
No, go ahead. If you got a question, go for it.
Getting to Michael's question, if we are taking the AP exam for environmental science, do we get a credit?
Depends what you get on the exam. Right?
If you go online to our course catalog, I used to remember the page by heart, but we've restructured it a little bit. The exact scores that you need in order to get credit are there for all of the AP and IB exams. And it also tells you what, not just how many credits you get, but the courses that it counts for in the RW curriculum here. So I will try to find that and post the link in the chat.
And don't stress if it says on the thing, introductory elective or something like that, right? Because if it's or a Nat Sci elective or something like that, because you're going to be able to use that at the very least towards the 120 credits you need to graduate. And at the very most, they may agree that that when you talk to somebody on the faculty, they may say, okay, we can use this as one of the electives that you need for your degree, okay? But either way, you know, you need 120 credits to graduate. If it comes in worth the 3-credit elective course, you've got the credit, okay?
Other question? On the RWU site for anthropology and sociology, they don't list the 3 to 4 electives we have to select. So I'm thinking that this person maybe wants you to share those if you're aware of them, Dean Greenstein.
Who is this that's asking this question?
That was Isabel's question.
Isabel. All right, Isabel, I want you to email me that question. Can you do that? So I'm bgreenstein@rw.edu. Email me the whole question because I'm going to forget it as soon as we're done here. All right, and I'll find out and I'll write you today. They're a good bunch, the Anthropology people. They're fantastic teachers. In fact, I'll tell you a story. We were doing an open house event. So this is in the fall. Did any of you come to an open house? Okay, so we set up all these tables in the gym, and the departments have representatives there. And Saeed was he's one of the sociologists. They all have superlative teachers. So he was covering the department, and he was standing out in front of the table. And he's this big, tall guy. And he's very animated. He's dancing around and everything. And there's a couple of families, 3 or 4 families there, listening to him, and he's explaining basically what sociology is. And he said, he said, we're teaching you, societies have codes. You all know the code, but you don't know that you know the code, but you just act within the social framework that you grow up in. He said, did you ever see the movie The Matrix? And they all said, yeah, I've seen The Matrix. He said, well, you know how all those green strands of code in the movie, and Neo can see the code, but nobody else can see the code? He goes, that's what we teach you in sociology. We teach you to see the code. And I was like, that's it, he nailed it. That's really, really good, right? Any other questions? Because I want to say one more thing, but I'll take questions first.
I'm going to post the address. So you, I think it was Michael who had a question about the AP credits. So you can actually go right to that site and it'll take you to the chart where you can see all the credits that you need, and I'm sorry, the scores that you need on your AP exams to get credit at the university. Was it environmental science you had a question about?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need a 4 on the AP environmental science class or test in order to get credit. You get 4 credits for it, and it looks like right now it equates to natural science 103.
Great, that's a lab class. Okay, all right, what else? I wish I was in the same room with you guys. It'd be a lot more fun.
D. Greenstein, it looks like we only have about 6 minutes left. Do you want to share the additional information that you referred to earlier?
It's not information, it's observation. And that is, so you might have noticed that there's this virus thing going around. You noticed? Okay. So I want you to think for a minute, and this is important, right? Because this is what we do for you. I want you to think for a minute about the departments in my school, School of Social and Natural Sciences, okay? Because you guys are all focusing on coming in, declaring a major, right? That's fine. You know, every major, you get interested in something, you learn about something you're passionate about. But really what the take-home product is, the value-added proposition, if you will, is the ability to think through different disciplinary lenses to solve complex problems. So think about this coronavirus for a minute. Do you think there's a mathematical, if you're a math major, do you think there's a mathematical application to this problem? Seen all those graphs about the exponential growth and all that, modeling for the outbreak? Have you seen those? That's math, all right? What about chemistry? You know, they're trying to get tests. What do you need for tests? You need reagents. Who makes the reagents? Chemists, right? What about the actual figuring out what the vaccine is going to be for the virus, right? Who does that? Biologists, right? What about the epidemiology and keeping the society safe and making out policies that'll keep people from getting the bloody disease? That's the public health aspect, right? And it's all informed by those other three disciplines. All right, is there a political aspect to this? Right? Is there a social aspect? What do they call it? Social distancing? Do you think that's fundamentally altering, right? The social code that we all have grown up with? Yeah, right? And do you think there's any impact in people's mental health as a result of this? Right. And so exposure to these disciplines and getting interdisciplinary coursework and getting interdisciplinary experiential learning opportunities is what is going to best equip you. Because clearly we're not very good at it. It's going to best equip you, this generation, to handle these kinds of problems. And this is just an ongoing one, but there's other ones that we could talk about all around the world, right? So think about that. I know you're focused on a major, but that's not what a liberal education's about. It really is. And I think there's no time like now to make that point. What else? I saw a question pop up.
Yes, from Sydney. Sydney, thank you for that question. I will be graduating with pre-calc as my highest level of math. Will that set me back at all?
What are you planning on doing?
I think Sydney's typing. I'm graduating with this same and I am doing.
Okay. All right, so what you're going to do, any of you guys that are going on to a discipline that has some math classes required, is you will take, it's online, you do it before you come to orientation, you take a math placement test. All right, so assuming you nailed pre-calc, you look like a bright kid, you probably nailed pre-calc, you'll place into Calc 1, okay, which is the class that marine bio majors would take their first semester. Okay, so let's follow this. So if you place into Calc 1, your first semester will be Calc 1, Oceanography, and Chem 1. All right, now that right there is 12 credits. So I won't let you take more than one more class, right? And I'd put you in a core class. So the core classes are the classes that are meant to get you to explore. So I'm not talking about the core concentration now. I'm talking about core 101 through 105, right? So I put you in one of those, right? And that would be 15 credits, and that would be plenty for first semester, first year student. That's how that works. If, for example, you get placed into pre-calc, it still doesn't really set you back, because if you end up taking Calc 1 later in the semester, there aren't that many classes you need that for as a prerequisite. So that really won't take you back. The thing is, if that's the case, how did you do in chemistry? You just give me a thumbs up? Okay. So with a pre-calc, if you're in pre-calc in the semester, you have to have that at least to take the first semester of the general chemistry sequence, but you can take it concurrently. And if you don't have it, we have students come into marine bio that place into college algebra. And so then we have a conversation about chemistry and whether they should put that off first. We offer a non-lab intro chemistry course in the fall, and then trailing sections of the first 2 lab courses. And that's been very helpful for a lot of students. We got a lot of students in that sequence, taught by a super adjunct named Dave Fatoma. The guy's like the Pied Piper. Students love him. I've never seen a course evaluation from a student that said, I can't wait to take Chem 192 next semester. I'm like, who says that? But
and then there was another student who had the same question, but said that she's public health. So does it sound about the same for her? I think that's Isabel.
Isabel, what about the math?
Yeah, coming in with pre-calc is her highest math course taken in high school.
Yeah, so the same thing will happen, right? If she did well in pre-calc, you'll place into Calc 1. But this also depends on what track you're going to take in the public health major.
Looks like she's typing. I'm thinking. Okay.
So the math and science component of health administration is not as heavy as it is for the BS program. Public health's the fastest growing major on campus. Yeah. So we've got, I'll tell you a little about it. So we have, the chair is Mary Beth McPhee. She's full-time in public health. She's a medical anthropologist. That's her background. And then my assistant dean, Becky Spritz, is also full-time in public health, but she's assistant dean now. So she's teaching public health right now, but she doesn't teach a full load. She's dean. And she's a psychologist by training. And then we've got 2 half-time positions in public health. One is Carrie Warren, who shares her position in biology and public health. And the other one is Erin Tooley, who's in psychology. She teaches health psychology and that sort of thing. She has a half-time position in public health and psychology, or a shared position. And then I have Jackie Caudill. I forgot. She's full-time in public health. She's also a psychologist by training, but went back and got retrained and did a master's program in basically health administration. And she teaches in the public health program. And then there are a lot of people that aren't technically shared positions, but who teach. So Saeed, the guy that was dancing around talking about the Matrix, put the people on the bus, he teaches in public health. June Speakman in politics, she teaches a public health policy class. Yajni Warnapalan, math, teaches a public health, basically an epidemiology type class. So politics, math, and social psych, biology. Who's the chemist that teaches in public health? I can't remember. Can't remember. Anyway, somebody does. I can't remember who it is.
All right,
You know,
so
if you're on
we are
campus for one of these, you'd be eating cupcakes.
so we are right at about 2 o'clock.
Yeah, there's a
Are
question.
there? Oh, okay, Sydney. A question from Sydney. I will also have a dual enrollment credit for statistics. Would you accept that, and would it help bring me up in math placement?
I don't know whether it would help bring you up in math placement, because the math placement exam is basically functions and what's the other part of it?
Statistics?
It's not statistics. I don't know whether it would bring you up in the math placement exam. I really don't.
Well, I think the other part of your question, it sounds like, is maybe would we bump you up if we saw that class? Sydney, is that what you're thinking? And I don't think that would happen, because really the math placement test tells us you get your score, and then it kind of places you in a class. So you having had any of these other classes doesn't affect that score, if that makes sense. Am I correct? So
you're doing this dual enrollment at a college? Right. So then the question is, can you transfer the credit for that class in? Right. And we have a basic statistics class. It's Math 124. So what'll happen is the admissions counselor or the transfer coordinator will have a look at that class, at what the course catalog description for that is, and may also inquire of the math department chair whether it's close enough, and then make a decision about whether you get credit for it.
Is RWU going to honor this year's AP scores even though the tests are shorter? You know, we are continuing.
Probably, you know, everybody's making adjustments, but Shamika probably can answer this better than me.
We are really working to, work with students. We know that this is a crazy time. And so I anticipate that if the AP folks are saying, these are our tests and these are the scores, that we will honor those as well. And of course, any updated policy will be on our website, and you can kind of check back with us come the end of the year for that specific information, the end of the academic year, closer to the test.
I'll tell you something else. I don't know if you know this or not, but we went to a university-wide pass no pass policy this semester, and it allows students to basically decide. They have a time. They have to do it by June 1st, but they get their grade, and then they decide whether they want to have that grade logged into their transcript as pass no pass. And we waived the restriction on how many courses you could do that for, right? And we waived the restriction for courses that didn't allow that initially, right? So it's for all the courses. And we did this because we realized that, just like the faculty some of them are first crack at online learning, students have different learn in different ways, right? And online is one way, right? But when you're in a classroom, you can address different learning strengths, because you can have assignments that speak to different ways that students learn. It's more difficult when it's online. So we understand that. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that we've been inherently flexible in going that route. So I think that bodes well for this other thing with the AP. The other thing is the major societies. So, you know, some of the programs like the chemistry, which is accredited by the ACS, part of that accreditation requires that they have a certain number of hours with hands-on things in the lab, right? And so people taking organic chemistry right now, organic 2 or environmental chemistry, they're not getting that. Well, they got it for half a semester, right? But there's already something up on the ACS website that says, you know, people are going to know this was an exceptional time this semester, and they're fine with it, you know. And we've been having this conversation about who was it? Oh, even the pass, no fail, pass, no pass. And families are looking at a kid's transcript coming out of the semester, and they're going to understand. They're not going to have a question about any kind of irregularity on this transcript because, you know, it's you know, it's uncharted waters. It really is.
I didn't realize that students get their scores and then can choose to do the
They get their
pass
grade.
fail. So that's a really
They get their
awesome
grade,
option.
and then they have to decide by June 1st. They can't change their mind. Now there are some ramifications to it, and we're trying to make people clear on this. So, you know, anything above a D- gives you a pass, and so you get a P on your transcript, and you'll get the credit for the course. But you got a D- in something, and it's a foundation course for the next course. Things might not go well next semester, right? Number one. Number two. Just like a transfer, if you transfer in a course credit to Roger Williams, the pass and the no pass, they don't affect your GPA, right? So if you get a B and you take it as a pass, those 3 points for the B don't get factored into your GPA, right? Just like if you fail the class and it is no pass, the 0 doesn't factor into your GPA, but you don't get the credit either, right? Whereas if you take the pass, you get the credit. So for students that are trying to bring their GPA up for whatever reasons. For example, marine biology has a requirement, that a program requirement, that you have a 2.0 in a bunch of the required courses, right? So if you're a student is hovering around that or is beneath that, and they need to bring their GPA up, it might not be in their best interest to take a pass, unless they get a grade that's going to bring their GPA down, then it's probably in the best interest, right? And so that's an important. So it isn't as simple as, well, if I get a bad grade, or, you know, I'm going to do it, because you need to think about what your GPA is and where you're trying to get to, and then make that decision. And so we're encouraging students to check in with their academic advisor before they make the call if they're not clear on one. I've already had a question from one of my kids.
All right. Any more questions from anybody? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Dean Greenstein's email address up here in the chat in case anybody has questions for him. I know he shared it earlier, but I figure easier to actually throw it there so folks can see it. Woo! There it is. So if anybody has questions, you can feel free to reach out to him. And as he said, this session is going to be offered again. I think it's April 11th, so next Saturday, and it's going to be Assistant Dean Becky Spritz during that session. And then there are a number of sessions between this week and next week for the particular majors that are housed within the school. So thanks everybody for joining us.
Once next week are Q&As. In the middle of the week, they're Q&As. The program presentations are on the weekend.
Okay. If there are no other questions from anybody, we will wrap up. Thank you for joining us. And please know that you can contact us for any additional questions that you have or any help. Your admissions counselor is also a good resource. And keep an eye out. We'll be creating some virtual communities to connect some of our students. So there'll be communities for each of the schools. So you would be placed in a community for the School of Social and Natural Sciences. And at that point, you can connect, you would be able to connect with other incoming freshmen in the school. We'll have some current students there and some faculty and folks to be able to answer questions for you. So keep an eye out for all those ways that we're trying to connect everybody virtually in this time.
You guys all hang in there. I'm a geologist, man. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. This is a very narrow slice in time. We'll get through this. We'll get through this. The Earth has changed. The world changes all the time. It'll be fine.
All right. Thank you.